All right, everybody, stand up. Put your arms in the air. Touch your toes. All right. There you go. Sit back down. We do that every Wednesday morning to get juices flowing before our stand-up all-company meeting. So it's also right after lunch, and that's when all your blood goes here and your brain stops working. So just wanted to wake you up a little bit. So I'm actually really excited to be here. Thank you to the Next Week for bringing me over here. I actually have something I'm really passionate and I want to talk to you about today. And to kick it off, I want to talk to you about some of our amazing customers. Meet Bellies Beyond Borders. These are two women right here in Amsterdam who are trying to solve two problems at once. One, the problem of food waste, and two, the challenge of feeding all the refugees that are clearly dealing with a very hard time in their life right now. So they've created a mobile kitchen to bring the two sides together using food waste to feed refugees. And then meet Kiesel. The guy behind this is very passionate about making the internet safe wherever you go, and he's created the world's first portable internet encryption device. And then these guys, raising over $4 million to launch their inflatable air lounge, believing fully that no matter what beach you go to, no matter how far you have to hike to get there, you can enjoy comfort wherever you are. And the reason I want to talk about this is these folks are just a few of the millions of people that we serve every day. And who we serve and what unites all these people is, yes, they used Indiegogo. Yes, they're all from Amsterdam, which is awesome. But really what unites them is that they're all entrepreneurs. And that's who we serve. Because at Indiegogo, we're on a mission to unite people around the ideas that matter to them, whatever those ideas are, whether it's an inflatable air lounge, secure internet, or feeding refugees, and empower those people to together bring those ideas to life and make them come to life. And the reason I'm passionate about this is basically I started to learn how hard entrepreneurship was since the beginning of my life. I fundamentally believe entrepreneurship is the way to solve a lot of the world's problems. It's the way to bring beauty into the world, and every idea deserves a chance to succeed. Every idea deserves a shot. And we believe that so much that we believe entrepreneurship is a right, not a privilege. And I believe that because when I grew up, my parents were small business owners, and I watched them struggle for 30 years to get their business off the ground. Struggled because what they needed to be successful was knowing the right people. And because of that, they ran into challenge over challenge, and they ended up having to bootstrap for 30 years because they could never actually raise money to grow their business. Fast forward, I got out of college. I still didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So what do? You go to New York City and you work on Wall Street. Why? I thought maybe I could learn about money, but actually in that experience, what I learned was how broken finance was and how unfair it actually was. And the experience that really kind of brought it to me was that, or kind of came to a head for me, was when I was working in finance by day and helping theater producers and filmmakers by night, trying to help them bring their ideas to life. And what happened was I thought I could help them because I worked in finance, and that's what they needed help with, raising money, logical decision. But I actually completely failed at helping them. I couldn't help them at all because what they actually really needed was connections to the right people who would cut them that check. And I actually put up an event, rented out an theater off Broadway in New York City to put up a play called Incident at Vichy, which was all about racial profiling. This was right after September 11th in New York City, which that topic was a very hot topic at the time, still is. And I thought it was the perfect time to bring this play to life. And I got investors there to witness the whole night. I got actors there to volunteer their time. We got an audience there to witness the whole thing, and everything went perfect. Even the actors loved it, the audience loved it, and even the investors loved it personally. But they had different objectives as to what they were trying to do, and they said no, and they walked away, and months of work ended in nothing. And it was in that moment that I realized that finance was broken and how it was broken. And it was broken that the people who wanted to bring this idea, this play to life, which were the actors and the audience at this moment, did not actually have the power or mechanism to make it happen. And so that set me on the journey to fix it. I met my co-founders who were equally frustrated with how inefficient, unfair, and broken finance was and funding. And they joined me, and together we launched Indiegogo. This was back before the word crowdfunding existed. Since then, over 500,000 ideas have gone a shot at coming to life. In every country of the world is where we work. And nearly $1 billion have been distributed to entrepreneurs across the world. In the process, we have also added a sister site. So Indiegogo.com is our entrepreneur site for any idea, whether you're a filmmaker or an inventor. using Indiegogo to bring that project to life. And we also have a sister site, Generosity, which is our free sister site for nonprofits and personal causes, like if you're raising money to in America, it's not like Europe. If you don't have health insurance, you're out of luck. And so a lot of people are actually raising money for things like medical bills, which is a tragedy, and hopefully that will change. But in the process of launching Indiegogo, we ended up actually inventing an industry, and that was kind of by accident. And what I want to talk to you about today is one piece will be mission, but what we are trying to do is solve the brokenness of finance, solve the fact that ideas were going unborn every day, not for lack of heart and hustle, but literally for lack of access to capital. And so in creating Indiegogo, we ended up inventing an industry. In America, lots of jobs have been created and money distributed. And what also has happened is we've actually made the arena of bringing ideas to life a lot more fair and efficient. If you look at the venture capital space, less than 10% of venture-backed companies are run by a woman or have a woman executive. On Indiegogo, nearly 50% of campaigns that reach their funding target are run by women. It just goes to show women are just as entrepreneurial as men, and when given a fair and level playing field, we do just as well. So systematically, we're changing things. And what's happening now is they're actually doing it again. We're actually starting to create a whole new industry. Crowdfunding is just a piece of what we do. We're in the business of, for lack of a better term, entrepreneurship empowerment. We are here to help entrepreneurs take their idea from start all the way to finish, from idea all the way to reality. And when we started off at it, the biggest hurdle in the way was funding, which is why we focused on that. That's why we invented crowdfunding, and the rest, you guys know the story. But what's happening now is now that we've made it more accessible, we've made entrepreneurship more accessible for people to jump in, there's the next hurdles to tackle. Hurdles like manufacturing, hurdles like distribution. How do you actually go from taking the money you just raised to go spending it, making the thing, and bringing it to market? So now we're doing, just last week, we launched a massive partnership with Arrow, a huge company that has tons of technical resources, design resources, feasibility assessment resources, bringing it all to our entrepreneurs so that when you raise this money, you know that you're actually going to be able to go make something, and it's helping people go not just from funding, but all the way to the end. So that's what we're about. Crowdfunding is just a piece of what we do. So the reason I bring this up is we're innovating again. We're constantly figuring it out. We're in the process, we've now inventing industries. And so what does it take to invent an industry? What does it take to constantly be pioneering new solutions to serve your customers, which are, for us, are entrepreneurs? And the answer that I have found in my experience through lots of trial and error, making mistakes, accidentally doing things right, is that it all comes back to building a diverse team unified only by two things: your mission and your values. And if you have the right diversity, you have a clear mission and clear values, the innovation kind of takes care of itself. What do I mean by diversity? I mean by inherent and acquired. It means the people that you bring into the room have to look different, be different, from different places, different skill sets, different talents, you name it, you want as diverse as possible, because the more diverse a company you have, all the research shows, the more creative you'll be, and the more engaged and productive you'll be. And the whole point of you existing is that we're trying to find better and new ways to actually serve our customers. So the key ingredient, one of the first key ingredients to that is diversity. There's an economic argument for it if you want to be productive and you want to be creative and you want to innovate. At Indiegogo, it's been a huge focus of ours, and it's been something super important to us, and almost half of our company is women, for example, which is unheard of in the tech space, especially out in Silicon Valley. But and our leadership the same way. We have more work to do on our racial diversity and other levels, but I think we're going in the right direction. So the question is, how do you be diverse? There's the classic, really good approach where you want to recruit really wide, remove as much unconscious bias from your process, and filter and hire for mission and values. But a lot of us, when we're early days, and it's you and your co-founder, you're not sitting on a ton of resources to recruit wide and do all this stuff. So my hack is basically start diverse. If you want to actually build diversity into your company, start diverse, because the key kind of tactic we all use as hustlers in the early days of being a startup is you talk to your friends and you ask them to come work for you. And the more diverse your starting team is, the more diverse you'll build that company from. So that's my quick hack. The second ingredient to building a really innovative team that can actually produce and pioneer and figure out what's needed is having a clear mission, and that's your why. our why, as I mentioned, is to unite people around the things that matter to them and empower them to bring those ideas to life. And what that why does is it attracts purpose-driven people. And the key here is that any purpose-driven people can go anywhere. If they're really talented, they can pick whatever company they want to go work for. So what they're going to pick is the company that is trying to do something in the world that is super important to them. And what all the research has also found is when you have purpose-driven people, they are better at opportunity spotting, they're better at figuring out solves, and they're more creative, and they're more engaged, and they're more productive. So they are fundamentally more innovative. And the way my recommendation, if you're trying to figure this out, so how do you know if your mission is, a good mission or whatever, is just do the 5 why exercise. I know people have used it for different contexts, but just ask yourself, why are you starting this company? And then whatever answer you give, ask yourself why again, why again, why again. Like in the early days, I kept saying we want to democratize access to capital. That's why we existed. But then somebody kept saying, well, why do you want to do this? Like, well, we want to help ideas be born. We have no idea how many ideas went unborn before Indiegogo came around. And that's just a number we'll never know, but that's what we're trying to do. And so in being honest with that, it makes sense now today why we're not just funding. We're actually helping entrepreneurs every step of the way, because it's consistent with our why. And then the third ingredient to innovation is your culture. Now, let me step back for a second. Innovation is basically the process of taking something that doesn't exist and making it exist. For inventing an industry, again, that wasn't our goal, but trying to solve the problem of inefficiency in finance and entrepreneurship, we realized that we had to do something completely new. So we weren't trying to be a better, faster, cheaper version of something. We were trying to find a whole new way to do something. So with that, there's no templates for that. So this is why what's going to figure it out is the team. And if you have a diverse team aligned to a strong mission and then a strong culture, which I'll talk about, that's what'll get you. Because if you have this diverse team, this is how humans really work. Go in all different directions. So what brings people back together? It's that mission, that clear kind of unified goal, where are we headed? And then it's not the product roadmap per se, it's not even the strategy, because the product roadmap and your strategy, all that stuff changes over time. But what unifies people and gets people working together well and aligned is your values. And there's plenty of data that shows when a company has a strong culture, which is not ping pong tables and free food, culture is values-aligned behavior, you will outperform. And so what we went ahead and did is, again, this is one of the accidents that happened to work out for us, so that's why I'm sharing it with all of you, is back in the day when after being rejected by 90 venture capitalists before we raised the first dollar of funding, we finally did. And I always like to say if we had Indiegogo when we were starting Indiegogo, it would have been a lot easier to start Indiegogo. But with that, we had the opportunity to hire somebody for the first time. And then I had a freak out moment, which is like, well, who do we need to hire? I know what we need to do, but how do we need them to be? And so I forced my co-founders and I to do an exercise where it required drawing in 5 minutes, where you answer the question, I love coming to work at Indiegogo because. And what I was just hoping for is to get some clarity around what motivated all of us. And we did this little show and tell. And I realized in that process that design was definitely not a strength in any of us. And we were going to have to fill that because the drawing was pretty bad. But what it really got us to was we actually all came to work for the same 4 reasons. And as we discussed this more and more, we realized, oh my God, these are our values. So it wasn't a conscious thing, we need to go get values. It was basically an exercise of reflection and distilling what is it that motivates us. And that is what every company's value should be. It should be what matters to the founders. Why did you start this company and what are you about? So for us, fearlessness was all about the reason we loved coming to work at Indiegogo is we wanted to change an industry. We were excited to do that. We didn't care that it hadn't changed for hundreds of years. It needed to be fixed because it was broken and it wasn't serving everybody in the world. We also came to work because we wanted to bring our whole selves to work. We didn't want to have to put on the metaphorical or even physical uniform anymore. We wanted to bring our own minds, our own creativity, and figure this stuff out. Collaboration became a value because we actually were all people that wanted to win together. None of us were solo athletes in college. We just liked working with other people, and that was more fun winning together than winning alone. And the 4th reason is our mission. We wanted to spend our days awake, working, which you spend a lot of time doing that, helping people that wanted to be helped. And so it became clear that empowerment was our values. So I'm not saying those are the values you have to have for your company, but what I am recommending that you do is do this exercise. It's cheesy, but it works. And these values have stuck with us for like 5 or 6 years, and it's one of the reasons why people come to work at Indiegogo is they align to that. That's how they are naturally and authentically, and when they show up in the office and they're fearless and they're collaborative and they're authentic, it feels right, it feels good, they're engaged, and they're productive. The next step, once you clarify those values, is go a step further. This is something we only did a couple years ago, and that was actually define what are the behaviors that you embody every single day that embodies these values. Because as we started to grow and hire more people, someone's version of fearlessness started to become a little different than somebody else's version of fearlessness. And so we just wanted to be really, really clear. What does it mean to be fearless every day? What does it mean to be collaborative? What are those specific behaviors? So we started doing that, and then just I don't know, a month ago, yesterday was one of the final meetings about it, we took an opportunity to refresh those values or those behaviors. Because as you grow as an organization and evolve, you have to evolve your behaviors alongside. Your values won't change, but what are the specific behaviors day in and day out? So for example, fearlessness, we used to say that fearlessness was about challenging the status quo and pioneering new approaches. What we started to find was that people were doing a really good job with the first half of that statement, but not such a good job for the second half. So a lot of people challenging everything, but not actually proposing solutions, but the solutions that we need. So we've refreshed that a bit, focused on the second half of it, and now it's about getting people to come to ideas. When something's broken, when it's challenging, what's a new solve? What's a new way we can fix this? The next step you want to do then is hire for your values and behaviors fit. It just will save you so much time from dealing with headaches of people not working out. So many times people don't work out, not because they're not great performers or their skills aren't there, it's because they don't work well with everybody around them. So I'm trying to save you a lot of time and headache. If you hire for culture fit, you're not only saving yourself a lot of energy dealing with turnover, but you're also really setting your team up to thrive and be successful and spend more time working together and less time figuring out how to work together, which is the core of what values do. And then you want to recognize it. So when people are really embodying them and excelling and performing by leveraging our values, acknowledge that, recognize that. We do every quarter, we have all hands, and we allow anybody to give anybody else Iggies. Iggies are awards for people who embody our values. So whether it's being collaborative in a moment when someone was super stretched and they just needed some help, or when it was someone who dealt with a security issue on our site and just dove in and figured out a new way to make it even better, tighter the next way around. It's being fearless. We use this opportunity to honor each other. And the last and most important element here is to really make sure that you've brought in the right people, you've set them up to be productive and to be engaged, doing all these things that I just talked about. You can actually measure it. It's not the soft stuff. A lot of people think culture's soft. It's actually really freaking hard. But if you do this stuff right, it actually sets your company up for success, and you actually can serve your customers. So what we do is we actually measure engagement and productivity, which is the end thing that we're trying to get to. And there is actually a lot of correlation between the two. Employee engagement we measure, but we created this on our own. Again, we pioneered a new approach. But it was basically we take the NPS framework and we apply it to our employees. And we ask them every month, how likely would you be to recommend to a friend to come work here at Indiegogo? And we monitor that number, and we do initiatives around that to get that number up. And then we also monitor our productivity, which every quarter we set our goals, we have OKRs, and we grade ourselves. And the more engaged people are, the better our grades, the better our grades, the more engaged. They go hand in hand, but you can measure it. And if your numbers are tanking, you can probably ask yourself, are we diverse enough? Do we have the right culture that is bringing out all different points of view and nourishing that? And do we have a clear goal? Because oftentimes, one or more of those things are kind of the root cause of why your numbers might be down if you haven't done a good job with them. So that's my kind of thoughts and lessons learned along the way. I just want to leave you with final thoughts, which it's very easy in this world of technology and entrepreneurship to kind of get wrapped up in the fact that our goal is to be an entrepreneur or be an innovator or whatever. I didn't become an entrepreneur because I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I didn't get into technology because I wanted to get into technology. I became a technology entrepreneur because I had to be, because I was trying to solve a really big problem that was affecting millions of people's lives every day around the world. And so I've used technology and business as a means to a greater end, and I encourage everyone to kind of keep that in mind, because if you make entrepreneurship as your goal or innovation as your goal, it'll be harder to succeed, because it's entrepreneurship, is a rough road. And if you don't have a really big mission and a really big, important thing you're trying to achieve, it just might get too hard. But when you do that, then people like this, who happens to be a really big deal in the country I come from, maybe less so here, start to talk about you.
The private sector is stepping up as well, from Indiegogo and Etsy to Disney and Intel. Companies have pledged to help unleash a new wave of innovation here in America. And these companies do different things. They come from different industries, but they share the belief that when we tap the potential of every American, all of us are better
European. Anyways, again, we had no idea who was going to say that. It just shows that what we're doing is really impactful. And again, keep your impact as your goal and look at technology and entrepreneurship as your means to an end. And to get that, hire really diverse people from all kinds of walks of life. Get outside your comfort zone. It'll pay off. Give them a clear goal, your clear mission, and clarify your values, and a lot should take care of itself. This is your world. Shape it, or somebody else will. Thank you.